Hello and welcome to another edition of Storytelling on Orchard Street. I'm your host, Pete Salamita. In the studio with me today is Barbara Solsky. Barbara is a Hoboken, New Jersey-based poet, a writer, songwriter, and frontwoman of the art noise ensemble Barbiana Complex. In 2024, her poem Silver Slipper was published by Pine Hills Review and was featured in Here We Are, Rhapsody in View, the alternative New Year's Day spoken word performance extravaganza anthology. Barbara appeared as a featured reader at the Phoenix Poetry Open Mic and the Great Weather for Media spoken word series, and performed with Barbiana Complex at the Book City 17 Arts Festival. In 2025, Barbiana Complex released a new recording, Sky View Mirror, which is currently receiving critical acclaim. Barbara is looking forward to more poetry and music performances in the new year. Welcome to Storytelling on Orchard Street.
Thank you.
So we met, not in person, through online, through Dee Dee Champagne. She was the one that recommended you. Yeah.
Dee Dee's wonderful.
Yes, she's a real community type person. She really promotes everybody in a nice way and does a lot of things. So I'm glad to meet you in person.
Oh, likewise.
And welcome to the Lower East Side, Orchard Street to be specific. You were nice. You gave me a whole list of things we could talk about. Sometimes I ask for people to do that, and they only give me a couple of things. But I just like, before we get into the nuts and bolts of what you're doing, which I guess mostly right now, besides your poetry, is the new record.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, we released Sky View Mirror. Got a lot of radio airplay. Lori Towers and John Piotero had played it on WFMU on their show.
And John, they're fantastic people.
Yeah, they're wonderful people. And
on the Beneath the Underground.
Beneath the Underground.
Correct.
So so that again, the band is Barbiana Complex. We've been together since the late '90s. My husband, Mike McCann, is the drummer, and we actually we played some shows. And we did a release party at Berlin last year. So we played like all over the place. We played a lot of Brooklyn sites. We played in California. We played in Los Angeles. We played in San Francisco. And actually, we have a show coming up. We will be playing at Sleepwalk in Brooklyn on March 25th.
Okay. Planning ahead.
We're looking ahead to that.
Right.
So again, basically, I have written poetry, and some of the poems became songs, and some of them just remain poems. But it's kind of an art. I don't know, for want of a better word, art noise, because I do some spoken words. Some of the songs are constructed, some are not. Some of them are free-form jazz. Right. Some of it's some improv stuff. It's all over the place, but very near and dear to my heart. And so. We have, again, the record we were written up in Music Connection magazine.
Great.
We received a really great review. Also, Jim Testa he was from the Jersey Journal. He on Substack he had written another really really great review. So
awesome.
So we received some airplay. We also played on the European Indie radio station as well. And a few other blogs, Radio Free Brooklyn. So there's been a number of radio stations that have embraced the record and played us. And my unfortunate incident was I broke my wrist last year, so I was not able to promote as much as I would have liked. But
right.
But no, we're back on track, and we're going to be playing in March, and we're very excited for the show. And planning some big things coming up in the spring and summer. So
good. So we'll get back to the music and the album a little bit later. Let's just talk for a little bit, and I'd like to get to know, where people that are on the show, where my guests are, where they grew up, or how their life developed and how they became an artist, writer, musician, poet, so on and so forth. So you currently live in Jersey. Hoboken.
In Hoboken. Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up in Jersey, or?
No. I grew up in upstate New York, in Troy, New York, near Albany.
My brother went to Rensselaer, so.
Oh, yeah, I did
I've heard
too.
of Troy. Okay.
Yeah, I went to Rensselaer as well. I went from a master's degree in technical writing.
Oh, look at you!
At the
Wow.
time, they offered a degree in technical writing. Now, I guess
What
they
is
teach it in high school.
what exactly is technical writing? Is that
Well, it's kind of like writing like manuals,
right?
anything from that to some promotional material to, writing for an engineering magazines, anything technical you can think about that involves writing.
So before you went to Rensselaer, were you a poet or like what? When you were younger, before college, where you already knew that you wanted to pursue?
I always wanted to write since I was a little child. I started writing pretty early on. I remember that I have a lot of influences, but one of the first things I remember was, of all things, Archie comic books, Riverdale,
Right.
Betty and Veronica. My cousin had given me one of those comics, and
Right.
I basically kept running up and saying, "What word is it? What's this? What's this? What's this?" And I basically learned how to read. So that was obviously a big influence. And then from that minute on, I started writing my own comics. I also was very into Peanuts, Charlie Brown, and all that.
Right.
And so I started writing my own comics. And then the different things on TV, different movies, and so on and so forth. Started. My mother had an old typewriter, and I would just sit down and I would just type stories out on the typewriter. And then at one point, my cousin had given me a book that. It's kind of a rare book. I've been looking for. I can't find it anywhere. It was published in 1912, and pretty much has very dark and kind of more like supernaturally oriented tales. Like some of them were, I believe, Irish and Scottish.
I see.
And in particular,
What's your background?
Well, actually, I'm part Irish and part Polish,
Okay.
and a little bit of Dutch thrown in.
All right. The Solsky is the Polish part.
So, well, that actually, to be honest, that's actually my ex-husband's name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my real name was Luke, Barbara Luke.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when I got married, I took his name, and then basically I was a freelance editor, and everybody knew me by that name, and it was just too much hassle to change it, and I
Right.
just left it Solsky. Everybody knew me as Solsky, so
Sure.
it has remained Solsky.
Okay.
But anyway, the book was very influential on me because, again, the stories are very dark, and in particular was one called Snow White Rose Red, and not the typical Disney Snow White. This is very, very different. It was about these two sisters, and there was an evil dwarf who wanted them to perform certain tasks, or else he was going to, I don't know, do something evil. So anyway, they went on this quest, and along the line, they met a bear, and they helped the bear. Turns out the bear was a prince. So basically, the whole thing was they were very different because obviously so Snow White was very fair, and Rose Red was kind of darker and kind of completely different, and they were very different, but they were sisters. They were united in the cause and united on this quest. And that's kind of been a theme for me, in particular for Sky Blue Mirror, because in fact I have a poem called Sky Blue Mirror that kind of set that whole thing off as the inspiration, and that was basically about two sisters and light and the dark, and the yin and the yang, and
How old were you when you read this?
Oh, I probably about maybe 8.
Wow, sounds pretty heavy for an 8-year-old.
Yeah. And they had like Christabel and Child Roland to the Dark Tower came, and
right.
all these very, very dark and twisted, strange tales. But yeah, I really again, Snow White Rose Red. That the whole thing about the two completely different people who are united, and they go on a quest. And again, the whole supernatural, and that's in the natural world too. I mean, it's just kind of the supernatural and the natural, and then very, very influential. And then later on, when I got older, then we read the Romantic poets in college, and wow, I was really off to the races there because it just kind of expanded on that whole thing.
Right. When you were in high school, were you involved in writing or writing plays or
Yeah. I was actually the assistant editor of the newspaper in high school and also in college as well. And I wrote all the music the music criticism, and crazy stuff like reviewing plays and movies, and that's what I did. And I was one, I've always, since I was a little girl, that's all I ever wanted to do was write. And it was something I enjoyed to do and continue to this day.
Did you also have a love of music at that point too? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, the music kind of came a little late because basically I was an only child, and my mother worked. And so my grandmother and my mother's elder siblings watched me, babysat me when I was a child. So I was around old people all the time. I wasn't around kids.
Okay.
The only kids I was around, my two cousins lived upstairs from me, and they were older, and that was pretty much it. But so while I was I was at my grandma's, there was a little girl that lived across the street named Jeannie. And so I used to love to go to Jeannie's because we would play Barbies, but mainly because of her sister's record collection, because her sister had this wonderful record collection, like the Zombies and, Led Zeppelin and, the Doors and all this music. And I started listening to this, and I went there mainly for the music because I just loved it. Right. And then there was like a soda shop in Troy, and called Paul's. I remember it was called Paul's. And they used to have a jukebox upstairs, and the kids, if you went there to get like an ice cream soda or something, you would hear the kids dancing. You hear the feet of the kids dancing. Right. And I remember I heard "Touch Me" by the Doors, and I was like fascinated. Right. So that's how I got exposed to music. Right. And then it just expanded as obviously when you get in high school and so on and so forth.
Did you ever play an instrument?
I didn't start playing guitar until later in life. Yeah,
Did you play guitar in the band?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, I play guitar. I sing and I play guitar.
Right.
So, yeah, I didn't come to guitar till later in life. But yeah, that's my instrument.
So you graduated with, before you went to get you said master's, right?
Yeah, I went for my master's, kind of like, well, basically, my college when undergrad did not offer a journalism, a journalism degree.
Right.
And that's really what I wanted to do, because I was writing criticism, and I at first I wanted to be a critic.
Huh. Critic.
But meanwhile, I was writing poetry and writing short stories.
A music critic, or?
Yeah, that's what I was interested in that very much, but. Again, it didn't really happen. And so kind of like second best, because I couldn't pursue the journalism, I ended up going up RPI because they had a technical writing course, and that was the closest thing. And I didn't want to be a teacher, although I ended up becoming a substitute teacher for a while.
Okay.
I did take teaching in, that was a minor for me in secondary education when I went to college. But that was not really for me, even though I did do it, and I liked the kids a lot. I was with all high school kids, and I was like a few years older than the kids, so it was kind of strange. But although I like the kids, I enjoy being with the kids. It really wasn't for me. I wanted to write. That's really what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So that's pretty much it. But
and did you wind up with a career in technical writing?
Sort of. I ended up becoming an editor. Now I'm an editor for pharmaceutical advertising.
Oh, okay.
And that is my profession. It's been for quite a few years now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you after you graduated with your master's, that's when you moved down this way, or were you still up there in upstate?
Well, no, I lived in upstate until I got married. And then when I got married, then we moved to New Jersey. And that's how I ended up with New Jersey. Right. Yeah, my ex was from New Jersey. And we lived in northern Jersey I was married for 11 years.
Okay.
So I did not write. I stopped writing. When I got married, I stopped writing. It just was.
But were you still working as an editor?
That's what I've been doing for a long time.
So you didn't give up your career; you just gave up your passion for writing.
Yeah, I kind of had to put that on hold, and it wasn't supported. And also started to get back into music and wanted to pursue singing and that kind of thing again. So it kind of came to a head, and then. I didn't write again for 11 years. And then in the 90s, then something just clicked. And I started to go back to that again and started to go back to writing again. I was very influenced by, there's a lot of influences, and, I could go on, there's a lot of them. But basically I started listening to the music. There was the band called X.
Right. I remember them from
Yeah,
LA.
like Wild Gift,
Oh, great
Los
album.
Angeles.
Sure.
And Exene is a fantastic writer, and just kind of the biting wit
They're still performing. I mean,
I
an
saw
album
them
out
recently,
like a
and
year
they're
or two ago.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I saw them recently.
Yeah.
But it's poetry. I mean, this is the thing because and again, Elvis Costello was a big influence on me. But earlier when I was in college, he was a huge, but not and Patti Smith, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But it wasn't just the music.
Right, the words.
It was
Yeah.
the words
Right.
because I mean, Patty is a poet.
Right. And well, John Doe has poetry books.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. And Exene, and
that
so
also.
so to me they're kind of intertwined, and sometimes you write up, I write a poem, and sometimes it just stands alone as a poem, and other times it lends itself.
Why don't we? So at the end, we're going to play a whole track from the new record. I mean, we might be able to throw a sample in during the show as well. I'm going to play the track Byron, but I see you have the poem right in front of you. Why don't we get the listeners geared up to see what your poetry is like, and then they'll see what it's like when the poetry is joined with music.
Okay, well, actually, the song Byron is actually from a previous album.
Oh.
It's called the
Okay.
previous one to Sky
see.
Mirror was called Glamour of Evil.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I got that confused.
And so so that song is actually from Glamour of Evil. But again, that's based on this poem.
Okay.
And again, the Byronic Hero, all that was very influential on me when I was in college. The Romantic poets, Byron, Shelley.
So this is about the poet. The poem is about
No,
the
but
poet.
they were I was very inspired by the
see.
romantic poetry, and that whole movement. And it's kind of the supernatural, the natural and the supernatural, and the Byronic hero, and the very dark and twisted, and people going on quests, and this kind of thing. It was a big influence on me, and has kind of been through. That's kind of like a theme in my writing. It's kind of a recurring theme,
Okay. Oh.
I would say.
Cool. So let's hear the poem.
Okay. Baronial he stands in barren, bridging landscapes of time, dug deep into the subcultured brain, embalmed in ecstatic acid dreams of pleasure. His profile shines, evoking evenings cold and wet, with the liquid light of fireflies. Green wings grazing his parted lips, luxuriating in his melting kiss. Frozen forever in forbidden forests of pining memories. Green-topped canopies blowing gently in the sharp breeze. Hidden windows opened just for him. Soft eyes drawn shut, murmuring their poetry into wistful, willing ears. White coverlet on whiter, silky skin. Soft hair shyly sweeping, sculptured hollows, penetrating jagged wounds of time and place. Exploding, petrified, mythical force of memory in a paroxysm of love. 360 degrees away from deadening duty. Circumscript forever in the small perfection of arms entwined.
I love the way you read that. I heard the track, so it's just I'm curious because I also put music to. I have a friend that I work with and a couple of musicians and put music to my poetry. So when you first wrote that and read it the first time, and now when you read it, has it changed because you now hear the music when you read it? Because that happens to me sometimes. Like now when you're reading it now, do you hear the music?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
I absolutely do. Yep.
I think it sounds very visual to me. That poem is like I could almost imagine like a short movie or something when I hear it. Do you write visually?
I would say so. Yeah. Some things have come to me in dreams. I mean, crazy. It may sound really crazy, but yeah. Actually, I've also written some screenplays. I've written like 3 screenplays, and a 4th is in my head, which I have yet to be able to put to paper. But anyway, yeah, I had this crazy dream about a serial killer
Wow.
in upstate New York in the 80s, and he was a priest. So this came to me in a dream, and I just sat down and just wrote
Is
it
this
down.
this is new? I mean, relatively new.
No, actually was a while ago I wrote this.
right.
I was also, I mean, one time I had a dream about Kurt Cobain, and I got up, and I literally got up out of bed, and I just sat down and wrote it.
Right.
And that ended up becoming, the poem ended up becoming a song. So
How long has the band been active?
well, I've been actually doing music since 1993,
Okay.
and pretty much solo, but I was always looking for a band. In fact, one of the screenplays I wrote
So
was
you were
actually,
doing your poetry with your own accompaniment, or you were in a band with songs, or
at first it was just me, myself, and I with a
Right.
guitar, and
Okay.
that was it.
Right.
And then eventually I got
with
into
your poetry, or actual or songs?
Oh
or,
yeah, with my own stuff that I wrote,
Right,
and
right.
I wrote basically. I'd write. I became very prolific when probably because I hadn't written in so many years, that when I started to write, it just came out of me like water. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop, and I would write like 2 and 3 poems a day.
Wow.
And then I would like sit in my basement and I would come up with the music, and then sometimes I'd say, well, this would sound good, and I would kind of pair the music with the poems, and I would literally like. I remember I used to have to drive to this one of these jobs, and we used to have a cassette. I had a cassette player in my car, so I would put on I would record something a music that I had written the night before, and I would put it on a cassette, and then I would put it in the car, in the car, and meanwhile I'd have the poem sitting on the seat on the passenger side, and I'd be trying to figure out how to come up with the lyric
Right.
and come up with the vocal.
Right.
I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. And so you mentioned. So what's the layout of the band, current band?
Okay, well, right now, actually, well, as I said, I was in another band for a while, and then I was always on a quest, and that's what I was talking about, the screenplay. I was always on a quest to try to get a band. And so the screenplay was kind of semi-autobiographical, and about a New Jersey housewife trying to form a band in kind of like the boys' club of the alternative music scene back in the 90s. So eventually, kind of what happened was, after I got divorced, I moved to Hoboken for about a year. And I rented an apartment, and I lived about, I don't know, I want to say about a couple of blocks from Maxwell's.
Right, I see that.
Famous Maxwell's.
Right, yeah.
And so I went to Maxwell's. They used to have John Mastro, rest in peace, John, he's passed. But John Mastro, who's Jim Mastro, the wonderful guitar player, his brother,
Right.
actually had a poetry reading on Tuesday nights. And so I went, and he invited me to be, I read at the open mic portion of it, and he invited me to be a featured reader. He was the first person ever invite me to be a featured reader.
Right.
But anyway, the Maxwells, and so at some point, Maxwell's changed ownership, and then the poetry night had been taken over by Mike Ill from anybody else, Sweet Lizard Ill Tat, another wonderful musician, and so Mike Ill took it over. And I would go on the Tuesday nights, and I would go all the time. I was a regular there. And, I just get up with the guitar and just do my stuff.
Right.
And meanwhile, my current husband, Mike, used to go to the Tuesday nights as well. And so we got to meet.
Huh.
So we basically,
You met at an open mic.
we
there.
met it. Well, we didn't really meet officially, but I remember
Right.
seeing him at the open mics
Sure.
he used to go. But
Right.
because of we basically met because of Maxwell's. And
Right.
then one night I went there, and there were only myself and the bartender, and Mike was sitting there, and I was very upset about something that had happened, and we started talking, and Sonic Youth came on the jukebox, and I was like singing. He said, "Oh, so you like Sonic Youth?" And then we started talking, and then I said, "Well, I have a 4-track demo." I put out a 4-track demo, just like PJ Harvey. I was very into PJ Harvey again, another
I could see that
fantastic
influence, sure.
genius
Right.
songwriter and writer. And musician. And so anyway, I was another big influence on me, PJ Harvey. So anyway, I put out a 4-track demo. My friend came over and ran the 4-track for me, and I just recorded everything sitting there in my living room. And it was inspired by her. But anyway, so I had it, and I said, well, actually I didn't have a copy on me. So he said, I'll tell you what, he said, why don't you just drop it off with my landlady? So I ended up dropping off the landlady And then he called and he said, "Oh, I really like this a lot. I think that I can help you. I know a lot of musicians." And he was in the entertainment industry, so he knew a lot of people. So I can help you form the band. And that's how we kind of got together.
Okay.
So if it wasn't for Maxwell's and going there that night, that Sunday night, was nobody in the bar except myself and Mike and the bartender.
It was just meant to be, I guess.
It was just one of those things. And we've been together now 25 years. We celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
This was in September, but
Right.
we've been together since the late 90s.
Right. And have you worked together during that whole period of time, or he does other things as well, I guess?
Yeah, Mike is in a bunch of other bands. He's in like
Right.
2 or 3 other bands
You
as
said
well.
plays drums, right?
So yeah, he's a drummer primarily, but he also plays keyboard and he comes up with a lot of tape loops and a lot of effects and a lot of crazy stuff, sequences and so on and so forth. So yeah, he's extremely talented.
And so what other instrumentation do you have in the
So myself on vocals and guitar, and then Mike on drums and percussion, and then we have our bass player Warren Kitt on bass, and then also we have from time to time we have Elliot Levin, who comes from Philadelphia. He's a very famous, legendary sax player from Philadelphia, and my husband had met him in Philly years ago.
Okay.
So Elliot is pretty much a part of the band, and again the recording. So the recording that we did, we were all panned up. This was in 2020. Everybody, obviously, no one could do anything. Everybody was just panned up and couldn't go anywhere, and you couldn't do anything. You couldn't leave your house or your apartment. And so we had all this pent-up creative energy. And so finally in 2021, we got together in a recording studio a friend had, and we started recording, and we did this wonderful jam. Like, we just jammed for like 8 hours, and a lot of the material was, these were songs. Some of them were songs that I had, or poetry. And some of it was just jams around the poetry. Some of it was, they were songs that I had been working on. And so a lot of this, some of this material is on the Skyview Mirror album, but it came out of the jam session. And also our friend Paul Wayne Richardson came over from, he used to play with us in New York in the 90s. And so Paul came all the way from Maine.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was myself, Paul, Elliot, Mike, and Warren, and we just jammed. And most of that, again, was hardly edited, only a touch, because the playing was just over the top. Because again, all that energy, all that angst just came out.
Right. So maybe now is a good time to read another poem.
Okay.
You up for that?
I'm just gonna grab a little sip of
We'll take a water break.
But this one
I will
here,
as well. It's a little warm in here too.
yeah. Well, this one is called Sweet Cellophane Heart. This actually is one of the poems that we jammed to in that session that ended up being on the album.
So I guess you have a new record, and you mentioned Byron is on a previous one. So how many?
Byron is on Glimmer of Evil.
So how many records have you guys put out?
I think we've had like 5 albums.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how many poems. I couldn't tell you. I don't know, 50 poems. I don't know. Anyway, so this is Sweet Cellophane Heart. Sweet cellophane heart, shrink-wrapped, protected, muffled in velvet. But inside the cardboard, ticking like an alarm, a soothing rhythm lulls the unwary. In her heart he was, too precious to hold, too precious to know. But she tasted sweet burning cinnamon on her tongue. Burning sets off the alarm. Red cellophane flames burst through the cardboard, shattering the shell in sharp, jagged pieces. The red candy daggers pierce the tender heart, too precious to know.
All right. What's the inspiration for that?
Well, again, that goes back to the tale, the Snow White and Rose Red. And in fact, there's another poem I will read that actually, that's the title track, basically the title track, but again, it was based on this poem. Again, the light and the dark, good and evil, and sometimes forces joining to be able to overcome darkness.
I'm amazed that this book had such an influence on you that to this day it seems like it still stirs so much for you.
Well, yeah, and too, as I said, the Romantic poets reading that, and some of the material. I mean, Patti Smith, that deals in kind of like the supernatural and kind of the natural and the supernatural as well. And then I remember that I went to see Patti Smith a long time ago in Albany. And she had behind her, she had a film playing behind her, and it was called Patty Light and Dark.
Wow.
And it was a black and white film, and it kind of played on that whole thing.
Right.
So again, that's kind of like a running theme through my work.
Right. So you said you have all these screenplays written.
Yep. Well, yeah.
Any chance you can make something happen?
Well, actually, the one I did have some interest in the one that was the semi-autobiographical one. I sent it out to some people, and they were sort of interested. But the thing is, you have to get the funding. You have to anybody that's trying to get a film going or anything like that, film project going, can tell you it's a lot of work, and you have to have the money.
Right.
And that's the main thing, or else you can't do it.
Of course. What about a play?
I haven't written a play as an adult, but as a child, again, I used to write. Well, I wrote a play based upon the story, The Snow White Rose Red. Based upon that story, I wrote a play, and my friends, all my little friends, got together. And I gave them all parts, and they all played in front of their parents, And then when I was in high school, I call them radio plays. I used to make up. My friend and I had this whole mythology about these teachers. We had this big crush on these teachers, and so we made this whole crazy mythology up about them, and all the stuff that they did, and behind the scenes. And so I would just would again use the tape recorder and record these kind of free-form, crazy, I don't know, improv plays that we would just come up with off the top of our heads and just wing it.
Right.
And we'd play music in the background. I did that a lot.
I see. How do you feel about, I just called up Sky View Mirror.
Into the subcultured brain.
You mind if I play maybe just a little cut of it just to get the audience to...
In ecstatic.
Okay, well that's one of the jams. Just to warn you, that's one of the jams.
Okay.
But
or is there something else from the new record you would like me to...
From the new one.
It's not the whole thing, we'll just play a little sample of it, just so we're talking about it. And
Well, Cellophane Heart, the beginning of Cellophane Heart is just the poem, and then it gets into the jam.
Okay.
That could be one. There's another tune called Genie, but that I have not read.
All right. Well, let's just check this out.
Sweet cellophane heart, shrink-wrapped, protected, muffled in velvet, but inside the cardboard, ticking like an alarm, a soothing rhythm lulls the unwary. In her heart he was too precious to hold, too precious to know. But she tasted sweet burning cinnamon on her tongue. Burning sets off the alarm.
So that's what we just heard you read. When you recorded that, were you playing the guitar at the same time, or did you read it and then put the guitar part on?
Jagged pieces.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was recorded.
It must be difficult to do that.
That was recorded live.
Yeah.
We did that live
Right.
in that jam in 2021.
Right. So after the poem, a jam
And
starts.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
To know.
Right. Because I used to be a drummer, and then I got into the poetry actually more recently. I was in bands for most of my adult life. I find it really hard to read the poetry and play a drum at the same time.
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy at all.
For some, it's not the same as singing along with an instrument. Like reading poetry somehow, I find it.
Well, I don't know. I think it's just as difficult to sing.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, it might even be more difficult to sing because you have to get the breath control and be able to hold the notes and all that stuff, and you're trying to play at the same time.
Right. Except singing in a song-like context, the words are kind of timed with the music in a different way. I don't know. I find it interesting. Like, just curious how, how hard that is to do. It's challenging.
It is.
Right.
It is challenging.
Although you were kind of reading in the rhythm of the guitar for the most part, right? To some degree.
Sort of, but it's not always the case with everything, though.
Right.
In some cases, you're kind of not.
Right.
That's when it kind of flows right. But other times it's, again, it can be very challenging.
Yeah. So, what else should we say? I got sidetracked by playing the music. I'm still lost in that sound. I really liked it. You have another poem you'd like to read?
Okay, well, I can do this one again. This was from this is Skyview Mirror, and this is based upon the based upon that fairy tale.
Okay.
He was lucky in love, but cursed with honor, resisting the privilege of owning two hearts. One was his angel, snow white and silent, pale and beneficent like the moon. The other, a sprite, rose red with mischief, bright and forbidden like the sun. And they both loved him dearly, if a bit unclearly. Not what he was, but what he could be. Not what was shown, but what there should be. A sky view mirror. And he looked to the sky, but found no respite for his wandering mind and divided heart. While his forehead was bathed in cooling moonglow, his body was lavished with glistening oils. But he forswore the pleasure of indecision and still craved the safety of appeased conscience. While the cold, weeping moon froze slowly in sorrow, and the scorned, sullen sun was consumed in desire.
Wow. Are you thinking about putting all this together in a book form, or?
I thought about it.
Yeah.
I actually have a good friend, Daniel Nestor. Dan Nestor is another wonderful writer, fantastic writer. And he was a good friend of my husband's. They met in college. And so Dan was actually instrumental in getting my poem, Silver Slipper, published in Pine Hills Review.
Okay.
And he's been very encouraging. And I know that at one point, I think he was writing some screenplays. So possibly Dan was, kind of, I was talking to him kind of about maybe doing a book, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not really a known author, I do have a lot of material, but I'm not really known.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I don't want to do like a vanity press, you know what I mean?
See. Okay. Right.
But it is something I thought about, yeah.
You have, you mentioned a few readings. Are you coming up with anything? You still read without the band, like separate from the band, just read the poetry separate?
Yeah, actually, I just did a reading. Perry Masco has an event
Right.
at KGB.
That was at KGB, yeah.
That's
right.
at.
How did that go?
Wonderful.
Right. I like that room. It's nice.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
So Perry's wonderful. It's really very supportive, and she's got a great band, Tough Darlings. Her band, really great. And I know her through Wharton Tears, because Wharton Tears actually mixed and mastered The Glamour of Evil, the record before this one. And then we got friendly with Wharton, and we actually played with the ensemble. We played a few gigs with them, and I got to know Perry because she was playing in Wharton's band. And, so that's how I know her, through that. But yeah, she mainly had, so she had some other people that played some material, kind of spoken word, what they call spoken word material. Also at Mark C. Was there. and a few other people. So from Live Skull, Mark C. from Live Skull, and a few other people. So it was really a lot of fun and really enjoyed that. And before that, I mean, I actually have read, I mean, again, John Mastro, you know, God bless his soul, but John Mastro was the first person to ask me to be a featured reader. And then through him, I met a couple of people. Through him, I met Jushi. If you remember Jushi. Jushi was a wonderful poet and also musician. She lived in Chelsea, and she used to have, she used to do poetry readings at her loft space
I see.
in Chelsea. And after, as I said, I lived in Hoboken for a year, but then I moved to Manhattan. I moved to Chelsea, and I met Jushi because she was a featured reader. John had asked me to be a featured reader. The same thing, she was also a featured reader. That's how I got to know her. And then when I moved to Manhattan, then I started to go to her events at her loft space, and I was a featured reader at Jushi's. So, and I'm trying to think of who else I met through that. Well, obviously my husband I met through that, but
that's a pretty big one.
yeah.
Yeah. What else you have that you'd like to share with us?
Okay. Well, the other thing, another big influence on me, kind of a muse, was my friend Amelia. Back in, of all things, I met Amelia back in kindergarten.
Wow.
And so she was I had like 3 gold stars on my paper, and she didn't get any stars. So when nobody was looking, she stole one of the stars off my paper.
Right.
But I didn't say any. I didn't rat her out to the teacher.
That was nice of you.
And so
You had 3, so you
we
give
got
up
along.
one.
We got along, but she stole my star. And then we didn't really become friends until we were maybe around 11. And then we became really good friends. And Amelia was Italian American, and she had all these stories about all these superstitions like the evil eye. And I was fascinated.
Wow.
And then I
Sounds
remember
right
that.
up your alley.
Oh, wow. And then she told me this story. She said, well, she says, if you, at midnight, if you sit in front of a mirror in a darkened room at midnight and you put a candle in front of your face, all the evil in you comes out. And she said she actually did this, and she saw the evil in herself come out.
Wow.
It's fascinating. So then there were a lot of woods behind my house in Troy. And so it was something she just loved to do. We started exploring, and we would explore the woods. We'd go running around in the woods, and she always wanted to be like a survivalist. She wanted to like be in the wilderness and camp out and all this stuff. And she had an older brother who was in Vietnam, but an older brother, and he told her about all these things, how you have to survive and you have to do this and this. I remember she wanted to trap a pheasant for some reason. She just wanted to trap him, but she didn't want to hurt him or anything. Right. She just wanted to trap it. And
there were pheasants?
We had pheasants. So she was a fascinating character, and I loved Amelia. And then unfortunately, Amelia kind of got into another crowd, and then she got expelled from our Catholic school for smoking weed.
Wow. And
my mother forbade me for ever, hanging out with her ever again. So I couldn't hang around with Amelia anymore. And then I didn't see her for a while. And then because she got kicked out of school. So then eventually one day I was hanging out. It was a couple of years later, maybe a year later. And she came waltzing down the street, and she was barefoot and had like bell-bottom jeans on, and like little I don't know, all these beads and everything. And she's walking down the street with a bunch of kids, and she says, "Hey, Barb, congratulate me. I turned hippie."
Yeah.
And then, and I was like, "Congratulations." and then I didn't see her for a long time, and then I saw her in church, and it was a mass for the dead. And I guess her brother, I think he was killed in Vietnam. So she went to the mass, and I hadn't seen her in years. And she whispered, and she says, she says, I thought that the walls were going to come down the minute I walked in this place, but here I am. And then I didn't see her for many, many, many years. And then my late 20s, my mother told me that she was actually found dead.
Oh.
She was found asphyxiated in a car, in a van, actually, in North Carolina.
Jesus.
Somewhere. So nobody knows if there was foul play involved. Nobody knew. But it was really tragic. Yeah, she was like 28 years old. It was very tragic. But she remained with me as a muse. I've written like two poems. I've written. I wrote a short story actually about Amelia, and it's been published in like a couple of zines. And at one point there was a lady that I met along the way. I don't remember her name, unfortunately, but her husband was a professor at Barnard, and that my story was read in front of the freshman English class in Barnard.
Wow.
So yeah, again, she remains a muse. I've written again a couple of poems about her, and I wrote the story.
Is there a poem here that
And-
you're going to read?
Yeah, well,
About-
this one is called Lost Cowgirl. It's the first thing I ever wrote.
It's called what?
It's called Lost Cowgirl.
Cowgirl.
It was one of the first poems I ever wrote.
Wow.
And basically, it's an answer to Neil Young's song Cowgirl in the Sand,
Okay.
but it's sort of about Amelia.
Right.
I wonder where you are now that the rodeo is over. Silver threaded, tarnished, do your eyes still smile? Have you exchanged your horse for gold? Or maybe still, running free? A cowboy's lonely song. Evening song, do you remember? Lush pastures, green and raining. Now dry corrals. Rows of white fence posts or filled with red bouquets. And all the love you gave for free to those who never knew you. Did you take it back or can you make your own? And that's about Amelia. And I also wrote a poem that became a song about totally about Amelia.
I'm amazed that you had a book and a friend that, you know, to this day you bring with you and you write about it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was a lovely person. So
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I feel I'd like to read "She Stole My Star."
Of course, go ahead.
because
Yeah, sure.
That's Amelia.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I told you the story when I was in
Sure.
kindergarten. She stole my star. She's buried alive, trapped inside a time capsule, overrun with junk. Old records, school papers, and all those blue stars for trying so hard. Math class is tough, but life's tougher. Teacher knows. The smell of sweat, blood, tears, fear. But who cares if there's free beer? She stole my star. Maybe she craved the white and wispy playing dead, the clock, the kids, the PTA, or maybe she just wanted to play. She stole my star and turned it in for 3 flights up on silver heels, purple pills, food stamps, flying out the door. Maybe she just wanted more. Little lost lamb got out of hand, neck deep in the sand, but it was always the man who ran.
Wow. That's great.
It's Amelia.
Yeah. All right. So it's traditional that I read one of mine in the
super.
show. Yeah. So this is interesting. I don't know why, but I work in a cafe and with a lot of young people, and one of my coworkers mentioned a song that was on How Much She Loved It, and I got inspired to do a playlist kind of based on what I thought I heard. And it has a lot of stuff like you mentioned, PJ Harvey and Patti Smith, and it's all women singer-songwriters or bands. And I named it the playlist after her, Grisita. And since we work in a place called Hungry Ghost, I put that in the title of the playlist. And I'm like, wow, it's called The Ghost of Grisita. And I thought, wow, maybe I should write a poem based on that. And I took a lot of the songs and parts of the song titles, and this is what I came up with. It's kind of a weird way of writing a poem, but that's the wrong one. This is it. It's called The Ghost of Grisita. I'm falling fast down by the river's edge and drown myself in the ice-cold water, not once but twice, coming up grasping for air for the ghost of Grisita. Her silhouette still haunts me. My naked eye cries dry tears as sunshine kisses my wet body and madness overtakes me. As I run away across September fields, my body stumbling on toiled soil and balance escapes me. A familiar voice in the distance carries a message to me. I will fade into you under the killing moon, and we will dance barefoot yet once again, just you and I, like lovers do. She was my true love. The depth of my soul is now barren and heart is black. I will not be free forevermore. The ghost of Gracita won't let me be, because the death of Gracita was caused by me. I thought this would...
It's beautiful.
Thanks. I figured kind of fit in along with your writing a bit. So we're towards the end of the show. You have anything we didn't cover that is important for the listeners to know about your art or music?
Well, just, a lot of people along the way I'm very inspired by. Let me see. So I mentioned Dan Nestor was a wonderful friend. Obviously, Dee Dee Champagne.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for Dee Dee Champagne, I literally would not be here because she recommended me to you.
Sure. Yeah.
For the podcast.
Yeah.
So Dee Dee's a wonderful person and we're also a wonderful musician, extremely
For sure.
talented writer,
Definitely.
musician.
Yeah. And she's also a
um,
poet musician.
And
Yeah.
indeed.
Right.
And in fact, we played together a few times. We played
Okay.
at Bowery Electric. We played at Boog City. We played at Young Ethel's. We
Great.
played together several times. And she
Nice.
has her band Blueberry High Heels.
Yeah,
So,
and they have a new CD also.
yeah, indeed. So we played together.
Uh-huh.
Another person, Nancy Mercado, we performed together at Bowery
I know
Electric
Nancy.
as well. Nancy, heartbreakingly beautiful poetry. I love her poetry. Another person who was very helpful and supportive was Danny Schott. He's the poet laureate of Hoboken, and he was very
okay.
helpful. He actually used to run like a kind of a music series, music poetry series at a museum. It's the Sal's Museum, or not museum, gallery, I'm sorry.
Right.
His gallery in Hoboken. And then I remember that I went to he actually had us perform, Barbiana Complex performed at Danny's thing at the gallery. And I met Puma Pearl through that. Another fantastic, brilliant writer.
Poet who also
And
does
poet.
music.
And who does music.
Right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So Puma, I met through that. Jennifer Juneau was incredibly supportive, and I was a featured reader. Ron Colm. I was
Ron's
a
great.
featured was a featured reader with Ron Colm at Great Weather for Media. It was
Nice.
Jerry Johnson.
Right, yeah.
So we were kind of like co-features.
Well, Ron, Puma, and Jerry and have all been on the podcast. I'd never met Danny, although we're Facebook friends. I don't think I've ever been at an event that he was at, but yeah.
No, he just put out a new book. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Great writer. Another person I love, Jennifer Blowdryer. I love
Oh,
Jennifer
sure.
Blowdryer.
Yeah, I played drums with her band a few times.
Oh, really?
A couple years ago.
Yeah, we performed together too at Young Ethel's. That was another person that
Right.
we.
Yeah.
And another person who's passed, unfortunately, Jackie Sheeler. Jackie Sheeler was a wonderful friend. If you remember Jackie,
Okay.
she was a great friend. She used to share a rehearsal space with us with Barbiana Complex quite a while ago now. And then she had her band Talk Engine, kind of a spoken word
Right.
band. And we jammed together all the time. We played together many, many times. There used to be, Young Ethel's used to be called the Fifth Estate years ago, about, I'm going to say about 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And so the guy the booking person was a friend of Mike's, my husband's. And so we used to play there every other week. We played there in one
Right.
capacity or another. So we frequently played with Jackie, and Jackie would do some freeform stuff with other musicians, and and then or we would jam. Our bands would play, So we were always playing together. And unfortunately,
I'm sorry to hear that.
she's passed.
So in a few minutes, I'm going to wrap up the show, and then we're going to play Byron from Glamour of Evil. And, of course, you have the new recording, Skyview Mirror, both available on Spotify. How else can people hear this?
You know what? Is it okay for me to do one more poem?
Sure. We
Because
have
there's
enough
one
time.
poem I really wanted
Go
to
ahead.
do.
Yeah.
This is the Silver Slipper
Sure.
poem.
We'll finish with...
And it's to my, it
We'll
was...
do
it
that,
was-
and then I'll say goodbye to the,
it was
the
written
listeners,
by
and
my
we'll play a song.
aunt.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It was written by my Aunt Teresa, who was a child of depression. And
It was written by your aunt?
no,
Written about your aunt?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it
see.
was dedicated. And she passed in the 90s, and it was
see.
written, I wrote it
Yeah,
about her.
by all means.
And she was a ballroom dancer, Harvest Moon Ball.
Wow.
So I just want to read this real
Of course.
quickly for Aunt
That'd
Teresa.
be great.
1940. In lush lives past, she skips, glass-slippered slip of a girl, down silver stairways shadowed by the harvest moonshine crystal ball. She swings to smoky saxes, swishing nylons borrowed from Big Sister. Silver slippered synchronized, she slides in and out of ancient arms. Love me truly, truly here she shines. The floor now hers, and veiled in cinematic swoops of cigarettes, her smoky voice a Dear John letter, sealed with whiskey-scented lipstick kisses. XO, X'd out by a promise. Love you truly. White-winged, black-tipped he stands, white-faced, raw-boned cowboy, itching for a fight. But now the blood is real. And standing on a star, she swirls. He blinks, startled by silvery shards of moonlight, drenched. 1950. Gliding down Moon River, now boiling hot, in a sudden sun shower of greeting card wishes. Love you truly, X'd out by a promise. Pink and red and white childish hands, clutching, swishing skirts, grasping the sweet life out of her. But he's the one to fade. 1960. And so she trades in silver slippers for a sensible suit. Swagger never suited her. She serves them, standing at the stove and drooping in the heat. Hot water bottle at her feet, just white dots. Deadly dominoes pull her backwards, smoking, scrambling, gambling gamely, desperately. She shoots the works on tiny tears, and later, ballet slippers, Barbie dolls, and finally, Town and Country. 1990. Now crinkle-eyed in the sunlight as Moon River turns to sticks. Grasping hands close in a fist knocking at her door. Sliver thin, framing hollows etched in silver. Turning away, she has no loving kisses. XO, X'd out, love me truly, true cross, truly crossed out, but never truly crossed out. She crosses over into holy territory. Swooning, suddenly tunneling through silver shards of moonlight. Rapturous, he waits to welcome her again. And time again, she climbs, silver-footed, in the moonlight, shining on.
Great.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's a nice tribute.
Thank you.
Okay, so Barbara Solsky, you've been a great guest.
Thank you.
I loved hearing your poetry and your music. Of course, it's like we said, it's available on Spotify, Barbiana Complex. Is there another way for people to reach you, maybe through social media that you want to mention?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook, we're on Bandcamp, we're on Instagram.
Under the name Barbiana
Barbiana Complex, also under my own name as well, Barbara Solsky.
Okay.
Yeah, and all our records are available. Glamour of Evil, Skyview Mirror, Glamour of Evil. All of our records are available on Bandcamp.
Okay.
And again, we have a show coming up. As I said, March 25th, we're going to play Sleepwalk.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to that.
Great. Well, I've enjoyed having you as a guest, and now we're going to listen to Byron from Glamour of Evil. You've been listening to Storytelling on Orchard Street, recorded in the podcast studios of P&T Knitwear Bookstore. I'm your host, Pete Salamita, and with me today was Barbara Solsky, and now we're going to hear Barbiana Complex.
Baronial, he stands in barren, bridging landscapes of time. Dug deep into the subcultured brain embalmed in ecstatic acid dreams of pleasure. His profile shines, evoking evenings cold and wet with the liquid light of fireflies. Green wings grazing his parted lips, luxuriating in his melting kiss. Frozen forever in forbidden forests of pining memories. Green-topped canopies blowing gently in the sharp breeze. Hidden windows opened just for him. Soft eyes drawn shut, murmuring their poetry into wistful, willing ears. White coverlet on whiter, silky skin. Soft hair shyly sweeping, sculptured hollows penetrating jagged wounds of time and place. Exploding, petrified, mythical forests of memory in a paroxysm of love. 360 degrees away, a deadening duty. Circumscript forever in the small perfection of arms entwined.